Have you ever felt like you had to compromise your own morals for the sake of business or making more money?
When I was young, I definitely did a lot. I'm a little bit older, so when I was young in finance, I mean, it was the days of like you took people out to the strip club. You guys know all about that in Vegas here.
I don't.
does.
Graham does. That's
Jack
Graham's
tells me about it all the time.
favorite thing to do.
I learn about it through Jack.
That's not true to the viewers out there. Not true at all.
I think I see the Spider-Man meme where it's like this. And you guys are just
And we're both just
staring
at the
each
strip
other.
club together.
Yeah,
No, that's not true. Not true. We don't do that.
I wouldn't spend the money on it. Honestly.
It's true.
That actually tracks. But back when I was younger, that was really what the industry did. I mean, so it was steak dinners nonstop. You took them out to Tao if you were in New York, as an investment banker with the bottle service. Strip clubs, even like I was a woman, I'm not really into that. But if you wanted to close deals, that's literally what happened.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah.
How do you close a deal at a strip club?
I feel like it's loud. I don't know.
Oh,
I've never
you're
been in
not
one, but,
literally like, hey, baby, and then signing some paperwork right underneath whatever's going on
They're
up
on the
top.
lap, and you're like, hold on one second, sign this over here.
No, not exactly
But
that.
how does it happen at a strip club? It just doesn't.
Well, a lot of times what happens when you close, so what is a deal in finance? So typically if you think about investment banking, what are you doing? You're trying to talk somebody into trusting you to take their company public, to do some transaction with them. And a lot of the ways that power happens in the US, especially in the positions on high, is through traditional bonding experiences, which this is how rich dudes in finance bond, which is like you get together, you have steak dinners, you go out and drink. It's not dissimilar. Like American culture has the same thing in a different way than Japanese culture does. So like I used to do some deals in Japan, and there you're literally not allowed to turn down a drink in some instances. Yeah. And so that seems weird to us. Like, why would I care if I'm going to do a deal, especially to our generation? Like, I don't want to do a business with somebody just because they kept drinking with me all night. That makes no sense. But culturally in Japan, that's a big part of it. So, you can't say no to a drink if you go out for a celebratory dinner that you guys closed a transaction. And it was a little bit the same in finance. It was like, I don't trust you if you won't maybe make bad decisions with me. So when I was younger, I definitely saw crazy things. Thankfully, I'm a woman, so it's not like I would participate in that. But when I look back on it, when I was young, I just didn't know how to say, I feel uncomfortable with that. I don't want to go to that. And I sort of felt like when I was younger, maybe I'll get left out of the deal. They called it the 19th hole. So if you would go to the 19th hole was, when you go to play golf. Do you guys play golf? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you go to the men's locker room or whatever. And so the 19th hole had a lot of connotations in finance, but it might be like a bar, or you go and close a deal at a golf club. And so I felt like, oh man, if I'm not the cool girl, then am I going to close this or not? I think I was one of the youngest analysts they'd ever hired at Goldman in the division that I was in. And I was definitely the only woman who was also a Latina. I didn't think much of the gender thing at the time, but that just was a fact. And then when I went to First Trust, I was one of the only managing. Well, what was the title there? I was one of the only directors of the business. We didn't call them managing partners then. So anyway, certainly when I was younger, I did. Now that I'm older, that's another great thing about money is you get to push back.
Do you think being a woman in finance served you or worked against you? I feel like the notion these days is that if you're a part of a quote unquote marginalized community in some capacity, that you'll always be having to work a lot harder to get ahead or to stay on par. How was your experience with that?
I think if you call yourself a victim, you're much more likely to be one. And so I never felt like I was victimized by being a woman. I think when you look different, there's a huge opportunity there too. And so it's really, how do you want to see the world? Do you want to see the world as, for you or against you? So for me, there was never a world in which I thought, hey, I think men have it easier than me. If anything, I was like, well, I'm more memorable. You're going to remember this one sort of loud Latina that's in the mix, maybe. But these days, that's not that popular of a thing to say. And, and there's a lot of stuff that happened back then in finance that I don't think is the case anymore. Generationally, my best mentors of all time have been men. Almost everybody that's ever given me a job in my career was a dude. And every single one who helped me get promoted, I think, except two, were men. And so the women were actually really tough in finance. We were tough on each other. I think they call it the token effect, which is essentially if there's only a small group of people, sometimes they combat against each other. And so, you guys have all met. Have you ever met a woman who's been in business for a long time, and when you meet her, she's like, hey, yeah, what's going on? And it's almost overly aggressive. Mm-hmm. that was a lot of that going on in finance. So I had to shake that off a little bit and remember, like, you can be a woman, you could be a dude, you could be gay, you could be whatever, and just, do you. And for the most part, nobody cares. If you're good, competency kills just about any identity.
Has there ever been a time, though, where you felt like that has held you back?
No, the only time it's held me back is when I let it. So if I, in my head, said, hey, for some reason or another, they're not going to give me this deal because it's just for the dudes or whatever. When you tell the universe something, I think it usually listens. And so you got to be careful what you project out into the world. And especially as a young person, I did that often. Now I remember, I got my ass slapped when I was younger. I didn't like that. And I think that probably that happens to men in different ways too. But you guys are physically bigger. So, that's...
I speak for yourself. I don't know about that.
That's true. I promise not to slap your ass.
I slap his butt all the time. He can't do anything about it.
I can't fight back.
Jack, don't do that. You're just like, I'll take it. Maybe you like it. This podcast is really going downhill now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I don't think so. The only time I, struggled in when I was in a corporate setting was it was mostly my fault. I'm kind of unemployable. I think a lot of entrepreneurs are. We're super obstinate. I wanted things my way. I was super aggressive. I thought we weren't moving fast enough. And I remember one mentor who now is a friend of mine, but back then I was really mad at him, was the CEO of a company that I was running a big division for. And I thought we should use the internet. I was like, here's my idea. I think that in the future, we will sell investment products entirely online. You won't go to steak dinners. You won't meet with people face to face. We could do literally all of this remote. And that was kind of crazy, 10 years ago. And he said, it's never going to happen. We don't want to run the business that way. And he basically got so annoyed with me that eventually he was like, listen, you want to go left. I want to go right. It's my boat. If you're going to be on my boat, then you need to row the same direction that I am. And so I kind of got pushed out. I left the company, and he did me a huge favor, because if he hadn't done that to me, I probably would have stayed there forever.
But you know what? While we're on this topic, it really got me thinking about what the future has in store for businesses. Because if you ask 9 different experts, you're going to get 10 different answers. From a bull market, a bear market, stocks are going up, stocks are going down. It'd be really helpful to have a crystal ball at this point.
But until that happens, over 40,000 businesses have already future-proofed their business with NetSuite by Oracle, the #1 cloud ERP bringing accounting, financial management, inventory, and HR into one fluid platform. And plus, with just one unified business management suite, you have just one source of truth, giving you all of the visibility and control you need to make quick decisions.
With real-time insights and forecasting, you're peering into the future with actionable data. Not to mention, when you're able to close the book in days and not weeks, you're spending less time looking backwards and more time on what's next. So whether your company is earning millions or even hundreds of millions, NetSuite helps you respond to immediate challenges and seize your biggest opportunities.
And speaking of opportunity, you can download the CFO's Guide to AI and Machine Learning today for free at netsuite.com/iced. Once again, the guide is completely free, netsuite.com/iced, netsuite.com/iced with the link down below in the description.
Thank you, NetSuite, for sponsoring today's podcast. And now let's get back to the episode.